There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke. It's a city building its future together, one business, one family, and one home at a time. This is a place for makers, doers, and dreamers. It's where the global marketplace meets hometown values, where Americana isn't just a tradition, it's a way of life. Here, your experience makes the difference. With access to railroads, major waterways, and 8 different highways, this is a place in motion, sending goods, services, and ideas not just across the state, but across the world. And when the work ends, the day's just beginning, with beaches like West Beach in the Indiana Dunes National Park, exciting hiking and biking trails like the Diana of the Dunes Dare or the BMX track, and local treasures and exciting festivals, you'll know you're in more than just a bedroom community. From veterans of foreign wars to hometown heroes, our diversity is our strength, and we forge our future with the same flame as our steel. Oh, there's a place in the Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke. It's a city building its future together, one business, one family, and one home at a time. This is a place for makers, doers, and dreamers. It's where the global marketplace meets hometown values, where Americana isn't just a tradition, it's a way of life. Here, your experience makes the difference. With access to railroads, major waterways, and 8 different highways, this is a place in motion, sending goods, services, and ideas not just across the state, but across the world. And when the work ends, the day's just beginning, with beaches like West Beach in the Indiana Dunes National Park, exciting hiking and biking trails like the Diana of the Dunes Dare or the BMX track, and local treasures and exciting festivals.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November 12th Portage City Council meeting. I'm struggling to sit down, and I don't know why, because I'm going to be standing up again in a minute. Will you please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pastor Parnell, could you lead us in a quick prayer?
Let us pray together. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for the opportunity that we have to gather here this evening to take care of the city's business. We pray, Father, for wisdom and guidance as we make these important decisions. Once again, Father, we ask for your protection upon all of our citizens, our police officers, and our firemen. Thank you again for this opportunity. We pray this in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Liz, before we go with the roll call, I'm going to do the swearing in for our police officer and our firefighters, if that's all right. Absolutely. Chief Candiano, would you be willing to come up and do the introduction?
Sure.
And then I'll come up with the Bible.
I have a microphone here. So tonight we have a swearing in of Officer Brian Berkowitz. Come on up. You can bring anybody you want up with you. Not everybody wants. Yeah, let's get come on.
Actually, one of you guys like to hold this? So it's like that facing you. There you go. It's not a requirement to hold that, by the way, but if you want to do it, let's say. And then, so you'll do is you'll raise your hand, and you'll repeat after me. When I'm going to say state your name, just say your name. And then when I say swear or affirm, you can pick which word you want to use. I've done this a lot, so I just kind of practicing, but you know. I state your name.
I, Brian Berkowitz,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and the laws of the United States of America,
and the laws of the United States of America,
the Constitution
the Constitution
and the laws of the state of Indiana,
and the laws of the state of Indiana,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
execute the duties
execute the duties
of my office
of my office
as a member of the City of Portage Police Department
as a member of the City of Portage Police Department
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability
and according to the law,
and according to the law,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Now you're gonna sign, make it official here.
You're taking him out on his first case right now. Is that right?
I was gonna tell him to sign out of the mayor's spot, just to see. New officer, straight to mayor.
That's how we do it. Everybody knows that. Thank you again. Congratulations.
All right, so now we're gonna do a staged photo here, so hold on to that like that. There you go. Look out there for everybody. Anybody else want to come up and take a picture with them?
All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. All right. And 1, 2, 3. Got it?
Awesome.
The video.
Now, where is Chief Crail? Oh, there you are.
Hello, guys. Welcome back.
Chief, would you like to introduce your first one?
Yes, absolutely. So I just have to say, I think it's any time that we can come to these meetings and swear in public safety personnel, I think it's definitely special. I feel fortunate tonight that we're able to swear two in. First, I'd like to call Mitchell Bleck. Mitch comes to us from Cedar Lake. He remains there as a volunteer. He graduated from the Volunteer Fire Academy and acquired his EMT certification in the spring. You go ahead now.
Raise your right hand. And then
Whoever wants to come up, come on up.
what happened to your forehead, buddy? All right. So you raise your hand. If you could repeat after me, I state your name.
I, Mitchell Black,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and the laws of the United States of America,
and the laws of the United States of America,
the Constitution
the Constitution,
and the laws of the state of Indiana,
and the laws of the state of Indiana,
and that I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
execute the duties of my office
execute the duties of my office
as a member of the City of Portage Fire Department
as a member of the City of Portage Fire Department,
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability
and according to the law,
and according to the law,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations. Both of those there.
Go ahead.
One job.
All right, next is Julia Simtian. She comes to us from Cool Spring Volunteer Fire Department, where she graduated in February from EMT school and was working for Northwest Health EMS prior to being hired by Portage Fire Department.
Chief's got one. We're all. There we go. My phone for a second. All right, you raise your hand. Yeah, either way, yeah. No, I don't believe it's, yeah, there you go. So I state your name,
I, Julia Simtian,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and the laws of the United States of America,
and the laws of the United States of America,
the Constitution
the Constitution
and the laws of the state of Indiana,
and the laws of the state of Indiana,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
execute the duties
execute the duties
of my office
of my office
as a member of the City of Portage Fire Department,
as a member of the City of Portage Fire Department,
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability,
and according to the law,
in accordance with the law,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thanks, sir.
Everyone is welcome to stay for the whole meeting. It might go long, I'm not sure, but you are welcome to stay. If you were here for the swearing-ins, you're also okay to, to head whatever's good for you guys, but just know we're happy to have you here under any occasion. Now that we have our swearing-ins done, Liz, could you call the roll?
Absolutely. Mayor Austin Bonta,
Here.
Councilmember Alvarez,
Here.
Councilmember Weidenbach,
Here.
Councilmember Gina Geist-Hurst,
Here.
Councilmember Parnell,
Here?
Councilmember Vasquez,
Here.
Councilmember Ambler,
Here.
Councilmember Zilli.
Maybe I shouldn't have advised people to leave. Wow, we got kind of... No. Jordan's still here. Tracy's still here. I'm feeling good. Pastor Cooper's here. Good to see you. Okay. We got Mark Michaels here. It's good to see you. All right. So it looks like we have two different meetings with minutes for approval. Is that something that we can vote on in one swoop, or is it something where I have to ask for them separately?
Ask for them separately.
Okay. So I guess, did everybody get a chance to look at the minutes? And do we have a motion or correction or motion on October 17th, 2024?
I make the motion.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I think that passed. And then we have the minutes for the October 29th, 2024 meeting.
Motion
Didn't-
to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Wonderful. We had a Board of Works meeting today, so I got to practice not saying aye as well, because I don't vote in this one, you know? I mean, I could try. I mean, it's not going to go well on the record, but yeah. Communications, correspondence, announcements from the mayor. There's so many things I could get into happening in the city. I think what I would say for now is that if you guys have any questions at the end of the meeting, it might be smoother than for me to go into a big speech right now, given this relatively long agenda. We already did the police department swearing in. That was at the request of the chief that we go a little bit earlier, hence the reason we did that there. And then we get to the clerk treasurer's report.
And I'm going to try to keep my report short and sweet, too. I'm just letting everybody know the State Board of Accounts, I sent an email out today. They plan on doing their closing exit conference on November 21st at 3 o'clock p.m. And anybody who would like to join the meeting is welcome to come to the meeting for the closed exit conference with the State Board of Accounts. I would appreciate if Ed and Austin came, because it is mandatory that you guys are there.
I'll be there.
And I just want to reiterate that we've been working hard, the mayor, myself, the council members that have been, the budget committee, everybody, to move this thing along, and the State Board of Accounts is pretty satisfied, I believe, with the audit that they are conducting. So we will find out on November 21st. Thank you.
Thank you. So we go on to our unfinished business. Now, we have an A and a B, and we have a C when it comes to this. This is really, you might look at the agenda and see 3 different actions, but they're really all interconnected. I was wondering if Mr. Cherry, maybe if you could just kind of briefly describe real quick what's going on here, and then I'll invite the people from Providence up. I say people as if I don't know you guys from meeting with you before.
So basically, the way that our code was written years ago for plan developments, it kind of forces us to do a 3-stage process. It's the same change of zoning, but it's changing it from standard zoning to another zoning under standard category, and then from standard zoning to PD. So it's basically one zoning change for the plan development, but it's two steps because of our ordinance. The third, the C, is the actual written plan development that staff, legal, everyone's looked at and revised, and this is the final product. So it's for one development, but a couple stages. So
I guess one way to say it is, if you think of a piece of land, this is either going to land well, or it might be really weird, but I used this example earlier. If you think of land like a caterpillar, you might want it to be a butterfly, or someone might want it to be a butterfly. You might just say, okay, go straight from caterpillar to butterfly. But our ordinance, which was written some time ago, and I appreciate how much effort that Tom and Scott McClure, the attorney for the planning department, went back to make sure that everything was done correctly by the book. There's this caterpillar stage. And so I guess there's 2 ordinances for the caterpillar stage, and then that last one is the butterfly. It might be fair to say.
pretty good analogy.
I'm so glad that the press is here.
So that is it. So if nobody has any questions, I'm good.
All right, so would you guys like to come up, Mr. Carroll, or whoever you'd like on your team?
Is it on? Okay. Good evening. I'm John Carroll. I'm President and CEO of Providence Real Estate Development. With me this evening is Michael Langlow. He is our VP of Land. Trevor Murphy with Manhart Consulting, our consulting civil engineering firm, and Greg Bauer, our attorney. We're here to request the final approval of the rezoning and our PD that we requested. I don't know from a presentation, I know that all of you have seen the development at various stages throughout the process, including at our last meeting we were at for the first reading. We had it up there and showed it as well. Happy to put the development up and answer any additional questions if anybody has them, or just field questions, or if you've all heard enough, then I'm happy to just remain quiet and let you give me direction at this point.
I think what I could just say, just speaking on the mayoral side, maybe it's that I like to talk, but all said and done, when I came in as mayor, I came in very concerned about the rate of residential growth in our city, and I still am, but at the same time, it's important to note that it's not a matter of stopping all. It's a matter of making sure that what gets approved, especially in land that's zoned residential, is built in such a way that it's best conducive for our city services. It's adequately planned and in the right places of our city. It properly matches the area around it. We don't have issues such as drainage or unnecessary issues when it comes to how we deliver, city services. In the course of being mayor, and I don't want to say any names, we've had some developers who have come in the past 10 months, 11 months, depending on how you count November in terms of how long I've been mayor. We've explained to them what we expect, and they've said, well, I guess we won't build in Portage then, we'll see ya. We've had some who have come in trying to find some ways around things, and it became a little bit of a back and forth, and we do what we can to make sure we enforce high standards. When it comes to Providence, and some of you guys who know it from what it looked like in concept plans before, some of you guys who are on the Plan Commission have seen, this has gone through a lot of changes. And I'm comfortable saying that's not because of big disagreements we've had. It's been a very cooperative process between the planning department. I have, for the most part, stayed out, but I have been kept updated on what's going on. They worked through concerns about drainage, concerns about roads. Probably the most obvious thing you see in the map is that when this was originally proposed, there were a great deal of cul-de-sacs in there. And just to give an easy example, we're like, that's a lot to plow. Cul-de-sacs, the hardest things to plow, in the city, which is why they tend to get plowed last. And I have to post that every time it snows, that people know the order of things. They responded by matching the roads in that way. We talked about the type of neighborhood we wanted to see, the quality of it, and I guess we can go on with your questions, but I just want to state this is a very thoroughly vetted neighborhood from the planning department, as vetted as we can do within the ordinance and within state law. But that's where we get to you guys and your questions as well. I guess I should also add the importance of thinking about this neighborhood, at least in my own opinion, from a perspective of a transition neighborhood, because to the north of it is an area that's zoned for commercial development. Back when I was on the Plan Commission, so much as I could, I fought very hard. You can go back and watch the video. I fought very hard to make sure that land north of this area stayed commercial when there was a push to go residential and very high-density residential. And at the same time, preserving the land to the north for commercial development, which I'm very optimistic about is going to happen. You also got to think sometimes about going from commercial to a neighborhood. What's that best kind of layout? And I think that was also thought of when they got this put together and worked with the city on. I guess I just mean to say on the executive side, especially with our planning department, and I thank Tom Cherry and his staff for making sure that Portage was by no means, we weren't hard to work with, but we were by no means just saying yes to everything. We really tried to address each issue as it came and refined it. That's more of a statement for my department and my department head than it is for anything else, but I just want to clarify that we're no longer a city that just says yes to everything from the get-go.
I wanted to say I appreciate the changes I've seen you guys make. And
Thank you. It really was a tremendous process. I mean, I think that the staff and work with the city, this is our first, working through development from the start with Portage. And we think, I've said this more than once publicly, but there's no other way to describe it as a successful development is always a mosaic of give and take between the municipality and the developer and figuring out what works best for everybody. And we were really, really pleased with the process and how it went. So, and the Plan Commission gave us unanimous approval, which is, I think representative of that, how well the process worked by the time we got to the end with them.
One thing I do want to point out is the feature specifically being the paths in there. That is something that is unique, in my opinion. Having that, that healthy attitude of making sure that residents can utilize those pathways and the kinetic workstations that are going to be there will lend to some of that recreational usage of the green space that's there. So that in itself makes the property unique and user-friendly for the residents beyond just their dwelling place, but something where they can utilize in their lifestyles as well for a more healthier lifestyle right at their front door.
Thank you.
I wanted to add, I also appreciate the feet on each side of the property compared to other subdivisions we've seen have been minimal, and so I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
I apologize for texting. It's with the police chief. All good stuff, but just wanted to address something quick. Nothing to do with this. So, yeah, I guess all said and done. We need to have this read. Let's see. Councilwoman Vasquez, would you be willing to read that for us? For the second reading of 2425.
Ordinance number 24-25, an ordinance of the City of Portage, Indiana, amending Chapter 90, Article 5 of the City of Portage Municipal Code entitled Zoning Map. We're reading the entire thing, correct, in this reading?
You'll want to read through, is that correct? Or Ed, can you give guidance on that, given the technology issue ongoing?
Since it has been read previously, I think it would be appropriate just to show that the record reflects that the body of the ordinance had been read after you get past the title and the preamble.
Okay, so which we have. So let the record reflect that the ordinance has been read in its entirety.
All right. We have a motion?
And with the Plan Commission, they did a unanimous vote on this, correct?
I make a motion to approve.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I oppose.
I oppose.
I think that might be good because maybe it's just because I had my head turned one way. Let's make sure we got it.
Councilmember Alvarez.
Yes.
Councilmember Weinbach.
No.
Councilmember Hurst.
Yes.
Councilmember Parnell.
Yes.
Councilmember Vasquez.
Yes.
Councilmember Ambler.
No.
So that did pass.
It did pass.
So then we go on to the, what was that, Jade? I'm sorry? Gina, would you be willing to vote? I'm not vote, I'm sorry. Would you be willing to read? Sorry, we just said vote, I'm sorry. Would you be willing to read for the B ordinance 2426?
Ordinance number 2426, an ordinance of the City of Portage, Indiana, amending Chapter 90, Article 5 of the City of Portage Municipal Code entitled Zoning Map. Be it and hereby is ordained by the Common Council of the City of Portage, Indiana as follows. Section 1, the ordinance shall amend Chapter 90, Article 5 of the City of Portage Municipal Code, accompanying zoning map in the following manner. The zoning shall be changed from R1 to PDR1, R2 to PDR2, and M1 to PDM1 for 120 acres. Let it be shown that it's been read in its entirety.
Motion to approve.
And once again, the Plan Commission was universal at voting for that, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Liz, could you do a roll call vote?
Councilmember Alvarez.
Yes.
Councilmember Weidenbach.
No.
Councilmember Hurst.
Yes.
Councilmember Parnell.
Yes.
Councilmember Vasquez.
Yes.
Councilmember Ambler.
No.
Motion carries.
And then we have the third, Councilman Parnell. Would you be willing to read that?
Ordinance number 24-27, an ordinance of the City of Portage, Indiana, amending Chapter 90, Chapter 90, Article 8 of the City of Portage Municipal Code entitled Zoning Districts and Map, creating a planned development overlay for the below-described property pursuant to Article 9. Let the record reflect that the ordinance has been read in its entirety.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a correction on his entitlement. It's Article 7, not Article 8.
Sorry.
Is that okay, or should he read it again, Attorney Graham?
It is probably more efficient if you would read it one more time.
What did I say? I said 8? Oh, pardon me. Ordinance number 24-27, an ordinance of the City of Portage, Indiana, amending Chapter 90, Article 7 of the City of Portage Municipal Code entitled Zoning Districts and Map, creating a planned development overlay for the below-described property pursuant to Article 9.
All right, well, thank you. Do we have a motion? Yes.
The ordinance has been read in its entirety. If I am reading.
Motion to approve.
Second motion.
We have a motion and a second. Liz, could you call roll?
Absolutely. Councilmember Alvarez.
Yes.
Councilmember Weidenbach.
No.
Councilmember Hurst.
Yes.
Councilmember Parnell.
Yes.
Councilmember Vasquez.
Yes.
Councilmember Ambler.
No.
The motion passes.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you all very much for your time and your attention. Appreciate it.
Would you believe me if I told you that we had more ordinances to vote on? So we have ordinance 2430, amending Chapter 90, zoning, Section 90/9.15, schedule of fees. Mr. Cherry, I think this is just the first reading. I think we have to do a second reading, but would you mind explaining what this is, either at the podium or the spot? You know, with it being a fee-related matter, I want to make sure that it's communicated early, rather than at the end, That is strictly Tom's choice.
What's that? Oh, yeah, I know. I like the safety of being on the attorney's end over there. So what I did was I went through our fees associated with planning and community development. These have not been updated for a good 10 years, I believe. So we needed a way to, with all that we do in there, at least cover our costs for engineering and man hours and reviews, and this is what that does. So, yeah, it's just a long overdue revamping of fees. So this is it's in line with what the county is doing, so, and with what our engineers are charging us.
And I was going to say on that note, I know that there are some fees, that residents pay, on a daily, well, not daily, on like a monthly, basis, or when they
Right.
come in for things. My understanding, and you can clarify for me, Tom, but this is more the companies that are coming in doing development in the city? Or do
Yeah,
you
for
think that there's a good mix, or kind of what hits what?
For the most part, that's the fees associated with this. But, I mean, there are some residential, if they want to put a fence up, those have not really gone up drastically, because we don't need engineering review on that type of thing. So I think primarily we needed to take a look at the more involved processes.
Essentially, if someone's building a gas station, or if someone's building like a restaurant or a neighborhood,
Right.
we want to make sure that if that takes more than one meeting, the taxpayers aren't eating the cost.
Correct.
On the engineering side.
And if engineers are looking at it more than twice, then we're charging for that after two, instead of, that wasn't the case before. So we're not a profit center, we need to break even. So we don't want to, the taxpayers shouldn't have to incur the cost of a development trying to come in, so.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
And that was my concern, was with how it was going to affect the residents, and so it's good
No,
to hear.
those
So thank
were
you.
nominal.
And what was the comparison to the surrounding areas of us?
It's a mix, yeah. It's been an education looking at everybody in the area. Some are higher than us, some are dramatically lower, some are about even. It's all over the board. So, but I have to go on what our engineering cost is and what my man-hour cost is internally, so.
Thank you, Tom. And I'm so sorry, we have to read it, too.
I
Yeah, I was
just
going to say,
And you do need to read it.
Ferdinand, would you be comfortable reading that one?
Ordinance 24-30, an ordinance amending the schedule of fees established under Chapter 90 zoning, Section 90-9.15 for the City of Portage, Porter County, Indiana. It is hereby ordained and established by the Common Council of the City of Portage as follows. Let it be known that the ordinance has been read in its entirety.
Thank you, Ferdinand.
I'll make a motion to approve.
You have to make a motion to suspend first.
I'll make a motion to suspend.
I'll second.
Oh, we have a motion and we have a second. Since it's a suspension, Liz, we should do a roll call vote, probably? Yes. Yep.
Councilmember Alvarez,
Yes?
Councilmember Weidenbach,
Yes.
Councilmember Hurst,
Yes.
Councilmember Parnell,
Yes.
Councilmember Vasquez,
Yes.
Councilmember Ambler.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Well, Tom, you are the most charismatic speaker we've got out of all the people that come up. Yeah.
Well,
Thank you for
just
the work
for-
on that, though.
motion approve.
Yes, now we need a motion to approve. Did that come from Victoria?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Well, there we go. We will go on to ordinance 2432, approving the issuance of bonds of the City of Portage Park District. I had a quick question. I'm not sure if this is a Liz question or an Ed question. This was voted on by the Park Board and sent to us. Is this still a first reading, or is this a second reading because the Park Board did their thing first?
This is a first reading, but you can suspend the rules for this. So,
Melissa, would you mind reading that for us? Sure, the whole thing? Oh, sure, yeah.
Ordinance 24-32, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Portage approving the issuance of bonds of the City of Portage Park District and related matters. Whereas the City of Portage Park District contemplates the issuance of bonds in one or more series in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $6,300,000 to finance various projects in the district and to pay expenses incurred in connection with or on account of the issuance of the bonds. Whereas, in accordance with Indiana Code 36-10-3-25 as amended, and Indiana Code 6-1.1-17-20.5 as amended, the bonds may not be issued without the approval of the fiscal body of the City of Portage, Indiana, and whereas the Portage Common Council, as the fiscal body of the city, now desires to approve the issuance of the bonds as required in accordance with Indiana Code 36-10-3-25 as amended, and Indiana Code 6-1.1-17-20.5 as amended.
I think that, Ed, is that good?
Yes, it is. If you just want to reflect that the text of the ordinance was read in its entirety.
Let the record show that the ordinance has been read in its entirety.
So I'm going to say something, and Liz can probably correct me and maybe even give a better example, because if that butterfly thing wasn't enough, let me try this. Imagine that you have a credit card and you max it out. You know, you've got your credit card with a limit, you take it to the max, and I can't quite imagine being an individual with this kind of confidence and all stuff, but you basically make a budget that you're going to make payments on that credit card consistently, you know, until it's paid off. And then when paid off, you look back and you say, I already know that I've budgeted to make the payments back. Now that it's finished, I can do this again, and I just don't change my budget, if you will. I'm able to, usually that's the best way it works when you're doing something like renewing or reestablishing a bond. Is that a fair example, Liz, or is there something to maybe tweak there a bit?
That's a very fair example, and what you can do with this bond also is you can lower it. The max is 6.3 million, but you can lower it to 4.5 if you want.
And I would say, based on our conversation with Buzz Crone, I understand that there's two schools of thought. Some thoughts is bond for as much as you can, and, you know, then just see what you need to do with it later. But we did have the advice, and again, Liz, feel free to add more or correct if I don't say something with enough finesse. We've been advised that 4.5 is really the better target for the city in terms of what we'd be able to pay back in a responsible way. We've even been advised that going to 4 would possibly even be better than 4.5. I'd be very comfortable recommending to this council going with 4.5, with the understanding that we're going to strive to keep it under, 4 if we can. I just think that 6.3 is quite a limit to give for something that could, and I know what you're thinking, like, well, if the mayor's good and the park board's good, what's the worry, But at the same time, I just think that there is something to be said for fiscally making sure that we're not taking ourselves to a spot that would be harder to come out of. Liz, do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, 6.3 would be the max, and we could borrow for the next 10 years. So if we went with 4.5, we would still have borrowing power up to that 6.3 million, and maybe even more next year or the year after. So that's why the suggestion came in case there was a emergency that needed to be done at the park department. So that's why Austin, myself, and the consultant came up with a 4.5 figure.
Now, what was voted on by the park board here says 6.3, so.
Up to 6.3.
Yeah, so I think the spot there is, if they want to go with that recommendation, do they need an amendment here at the council meeting?
Council needs to amend it.
Yeah, if that's the way.
You are
they-
the fiscal body of the city, so.
And correct me if I'm wrong, if it is not renewed, we lose money also, do we not?
We lose a tax levy, so we customarily in the past, they've always renewed it once the bond is paid off, and this bond for the park will be paid off January. I think it's 15th is our last payment for this bond. And if we don't take the new bond out, then we will lose the tax levy for the park bond for next year. So it's included in our budget, the tax levy.
Thank you.
And lowering it from 3 to 4.5, for example, that would not impact the tax levy, though, is that correct?
Correct.
That's what I needed some clarification on. I didn't want to accidentally make you think we were lowering people's taxes. As nice as that would be to do, we do need some of that to make sure the park is running.
And so a question, if it were lowered to 4 as opposed to 4.5, do we know what impact that would have on the department itself?
I believe they were looking at the 4.5, not the 6.3. I think they have a list. I'm not sure how it would reflect on them if we lowered it to 4. I haven't really.
Yeah, so it's simply put, there's a list of things, you can do with it. You can do, some of them might be more expensive than others. You might end up not doing some, but all said and done, I wouldn't personally panic if you brought it to 4. I think that 4.5 is a little safer, given that there are sometimes emergencies that come up where it'd be good to have that cushion, if you will. I would consider it maybe more of a personal goal to keep it closer to 4. Not personal, but a political government official goal. 4.5 gives that a little bit of emergency buffer. Little bit, $500,000. Been in politics too long, apparently. I think $500,000 is just a buffer.
So the park department is comfortable with 4.5.
That's correct, and they were in the meeting where that was advised.
Well, then I would like to make a motion to lower it to 4.5.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I'll try to do an all in favor. Please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, so it's been amended then to the 4.5,
Absolutely.
and then we would still,
We have to vote on it.
now we would still need to vote on the actual bond renewal.
I make a motion to,
I'm sorry, we would need a suspension of the rules. Sorry.
I'll make a motion to suspend the,
Oh, no, that was the last one. Oh, and actually,
motion to suspend.
second.
we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And thinking about it, is it within the suspension that they can now amend it, or could they already amend it? Is that an Ed question?
Once they make a motion to approve, then they can suspend it. Am I right, or do they have to make the motion to suspend before, or a motion to?
Would it be safe, Ed, to just redo the lowering to 4.5 to be safe?
I think the motion should reflect the amendment to the lower number of the ordinance.
Thank you.
I make a motion to amend ordinance 24.32, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Portage approving the issuance of bonds of the City of Portage Park District and related matters to reflect an aggregated principal amount not to exceed $4.5
Second.
million.
Sorry, I just like how you added that at the end. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passed. All right, now we have ordinance 2433, repealing and replacing section 3837 of Article 2, Division 2 of Chapter 38, Ambulance Services. Chief Crail, would you mind explaining that? As you're coming up, maybe I could ask if Penny could read that.
It's a very simple amendment. We're just adding University of Chicago onto the current transport location. All we're doing is adding and changing names. Currently, it was still recognized as Porter Memorial Hospital. We're just updating the name to, I believe it's Porter Regional, and then adding Crown Point, adding University of Chicago, and maybe Michigan City.
Okay, well, I don't see University of Chicago in this draft. Is that correct, Attorney Graham? We have the
It may not
name
be specific.
change.
It may be to a trauma center. It may say a trauma center.
By saying trauma center, that would encompass University of Chicago?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me.
Is there a reason why with Methodist Hospital, it was just North Lake campus? I did not see South Lake.
We've not transported to South Lake in probably 8 to 10 years.
The Michigan City location is Franciscan Health.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, if you can go
And
ahead.
the
Oh,
ordinance
actually,
committee asked that the reference to "or successors" be added, just in case there was a hospital merger or purchase.
With that in mind, let's have Penny go ahead and read it real quick.
Ordinance 2433, an ordinance repealing and replacing Section 38-37 of Article 2, Division 2 of Chapter 38 of the City of Portage Code for Ambulance Services in the City of Portage, Porter County, Indiana. It is hereby ordained and established by the Common Council of the City of Portage, Indiana, as follows. Whereas the Common Council of the City of Portage, Porter County, Indiana, previously established Section 3837 of Chapter 38, Article 2, Division 2, for purposes of establishing a policy for the provision of emergency ambulance services, it has determined that it is necessary to make revisions related primarily to establishing the current hospitals where the City of Portage Fire Department will transport patients requiring emergency ambulance services.
Is there any other additional questions on that?
If you can
Record
reference
reflect entirety.
the record reflects.
Let the record reflect that it has been read in its entirety.
Motion to suspend.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to suspend. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Motion to adopt.
Second.
Said motion to adopt.
Victoria made the motion to adopt, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't hear Gina second. I'm sorry.
Gina seconded, yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I think that was unanimous. All right. So we now have ordinance 24-34, establishing a designated outdoor refreshment area called a DORA. Let's see, has anybody not read yet? Ferdinand, Melissa, I'm gonna have to call somebody else. I think it's our first meeting where we ran out of people. Gina, would you mind reading that one?
I did. Remember, I didn't know my Roman numbers.
Attorney Graham, what does she need to read?
If you would read it up to the recitals, that should be sufficient. And everyone should make note of the area that the DORA has been established, which is a way to designate an outdoor area where alcohol beverages can be served. This ordinance was developed in conjunction with the Park Department and their request to define boundaries so that the City of Portage could take advantage of this law in Indiana that allows for it. Also, some credit to Norma LeBoy, who assisted in trying to get the process initiated some time ago. With that background, if you would proceed to read the up to the now therefore language.
Before I read, I had a question regarding there's just 3 locations listed. Is it open to add more locations? Because
Yes.
You can actually create 7 DORAs in a city. I'll explain some of that after you read. I promise we won't vote immediately after you read. Yeah, you can do that. Well, I guess I could just give my example first if you want before it's read. Okay, so for those wondering, what are we talking about? Right, like DORA? Okay, right? Let's say that Ferdinand is at On the Rocks bar, okay? And he's having a good time, but he's like, man, I sure miss the rest of the city council and Mayor Bonta. Oh, maybe not all of us. We got to make sure we don't violate open door law. So I'll take some of us out of the example. Let's say that Ferdinand is at On the Rocks, and he gets a text from me that Melissa and I were over at the stone quarry. And he's like, oh man, I'd like to come and join you guys, but I've got this. What do you like to drink, Ferdinand? Not to put you on the spot.
I'm not liking this.
Let's say Ferdinand's got a glass of beer, and he's like, man, I don't want to have to chug this down or pour it out to be able to go and join my friends over at the stone quarry. If it's in a DORA, he can take his drink with him and he can go down to the other bar. Likewise, if you're over at Founders Square, let's say, let me pick on Penny this time, then let's say that Penny's at it's Market on the Square, and you're at the, I'm not going to use Bob, it'd just be a little bit too much. If you're at the, I don't want to get you in trouble with your church, Bob. But if Penny's at the beer garden during Market on the Square and finds out Victoria is at Big Time Burgers and Brew, Same idea. You don't have to like drink fast or throw it away. You're able to move it from one location to another. I want to be very careful not to give too many people any ideas, but Indiana's open container law is actually pretty broad. What really is the issue in Indiana legally is unless you have a DORA, in Indiana, you're not allowed to purchase a drink in one place, open it, or be drinking it, and then leave that place with the drink. A DORA is a designated area. In Indiana law, allows a city to create up to 7 DORAs. We're just focusing on the one right now for the downtown, where you're able to move between either restaurants, bars, places that have a license to sell alcohol, or those kinds of drinks. And as mentioned, this is something that Norma has been working on for a good deal of time. And she did an amazing job working with the state, checking all the ways to make sure this is set up. And I know that Norma doesn't like it when I talk about her, so I'm just going to be careful and just say that she passed it on to the park department, where John Harrison took this over with help from Kelly Smith, and they've created the current proposal, which is of course based on accessibility to market on the square in events there and other events you might do at the square, but also linking it to our downtown businesses. One example of an existing DORA, if you ever drive through Griffith, as I do relatively often, you'll actually see the signs that say you're now entering a DORA, you're leaving a DORA. That's the nearest example I can think of where there's already a publicly advertised DORA over by Broad Street. I always like to advertise something in another town when I can. But anyway, that's the explanation of a DORA. Happy to answer any questions or any of us, but yeah.
And how was the police department, their feels towards this?
So the challenge is like right now, and again, I'm trying to be very careful what I say because I'm not trying to give people any crazy ideas. The DORA doesn't impact any existing laws about public intoxication or being disorderly, as a person. And again, I'm trying really hard not to give people ideas, but in Indiana, you can pretty much bring your own beer anywhere. So if you're hypothetically just want to watch traffic on Central and you want to sit on your lawn chair with a 6-pack of beer you brought from your home, there's really nothing we can do to stop you. I don't really encourage that kind of behavior, but it is to say that it's been reviewed by everybody, and all said and done, you're going to have people who are walking from place to place, already. What this changes is what they might have in their hands within a designated area, if they want. I can also add that this does not force any bar to accept somebody or something from another bar. So in my example with Ferdinand and me, Stone Quarry and On the Rocks, not trying to speak for them, the bar's got to be okay with that too, but this creates the mechanism where the bar can be okay with that.
Mayor, you did a nice job articulating what a DORA is, but since there's been a little levity, for anybody that's been to the French Quarter in New Orleans, the French Quarter comes to City of Portage.
All right, we do need did you read it already?
No. I had a question, however. Does it also, if someone is having a drink at the Founder Square at where the beer is served, does this allow them to then leave the beer area and walk in Founder Square anywhere they choose?
Yeah, so you would be able to, let's say that if you went into that area because you didn't want to be around people, under the age of 21, all these places that are restricted stay restricted. But yeah, so let's say that you decided, well, I don't mean you, Bob, but let's say somebody decided that they wanted to go into the beer garden area during Market on the Square in the summer. They want to buy a beer and they want to take it out of that area to watch the movie while drinking a beer. You could do that under this. You don't have to be en route from one place to another. And again, as careful as I might say, we really can't stop you from bringing your own beer and doing that anyway. Where the law comes in is that without a DORA, you can't buy it in one place and leave that place. This is why in some towns that don't have DORAs or haven't had DORAs yet or recently created them, if you're ever in a festival somewhere in Indiana, you might notice some festivals where you might go up to a window and a bar might offer you a beer, but they will hand you the can unopened. That's because legally, them selling you the can unopened and you opening it outside of their establishment means legally you can drink it. Whereas if they were to open it for you and hand it through the window, they've broken the law unless there's a DORA going on.
Right now, however, they're not allowed to leave the bar area because we don't have a DORA?
That's correct. So hypothetically, and just again, because I love doing examples, mind if I use Gina? Gina goes into the beer garden and she buys a beer. I, Austin Banta, I am not claiming I've done this. I bring my own beer, like in a little, container, and I'm drinking it watching the movie. I brought it myself. I didn't bring it or to get it through any, restaurant. I could be, technically speaking, drinking, watching the movie. Gina, with her drink, cannot legally come over with it to sit next to me because of where she bought it. That's what changes under Adora, though, is that freedom of movement.
And is this confined to a certain area? Or?
Yes, so the district proposed here, and as noted, you can create up to 7 DORA districts, but they have to be based around a specific bar. There can be multiple bars or restaurants or anything within it, but there's got to be one that's the designated anchor. I believe the ordinance lists the Stone Quarry as that, or at the very least, the application we turned in. Stone Quarry, I think that has to do with just, you got to pick one, and it's kind of been there for a relatively long time. I think it was founded by Cain and Abel before they broke up and had their, but great people, love going there, but I'll be careful what I say. All said and done, the district goes from the west side of the mall over to Founders Square, roughly where the Chamber of Commerce is. So you're able, technically speaking, you'd be able to walk from Big Time to Stone Quarry. I think in practice, I don't think we're going to see a lot of that early on. That's more planning ahead for as the east side of the mall and the space between the mall and Founders Square redevelops. I don't remember because I don't have the map in front of me. Technically speaking, I believe the original drawing had the police station within it. You cannot bring, by other policy, you can't bring that into the police station or the fire station, I'm positive. I think that they're within it, but again, it doesn't change policies of existing governmental or businesses that don't want to participate in that.
Just a few brief points. The ordinance does call for a minimum of 17 signs to be posted and installed in the DORA. The ordinance also, well, not in the Dropbox version, contains a boundary map. And then lastly, this ordinance is also posted on the village, on the City of Portage website, so the public can view it.
Thank you.
Just kind of looking forward, thinking, is there anything to monitor, let's say, the trash, if somebody walks off with their beer can away from the bar and they decide to drop it on the sidewalk in the parking lot in front of the Stone Quarry?
So the answer to that is of course, but I mean, we could have started monitoring that in January and we would have given you a count as well, because there's just things that get dropped all over. That's a bigger ongoing issue with like cleanup, making sure that people are being respectful, but that's also true of bags of potato chips that get dropped. Littering itself needs to be addressed. I don't necessarily think that somebody is going to, especially because if you are making the goal of walking from one place to another, you probably are carrying it the whole way, because otherwise there's not so much of a point to use it, So yeah, we can definitely watch that and see. And I think the other thing is you can make amendments within the DORA once it's created. So that could even be something that we review if we start looking at things, and we can come back to the council in relatively real time. I don't think we're going to have much action in the winter, but we can come and say, hey, we'd like to put this restriction, or we'd like to add this detail to our DORA. But we do have to create it first before we can tweak it.
Thank you.
And so I have a question. This is in regards to alcohol in general. Since we're doing hypotheticals, if someone is at the Stone Quarry and is given a drink in a glass, and then they want to go to one of the other establishments, I suppose it's up to the establishment to put limits on whether or not they allow customers to just walk out with their glasses or things like that. But also the number of people, I guess I just need some clarification if possible as far as, I guess just the people who would be going from one establishment to another. Would they just be holding drinks? Is that the purpose of this? I guess I need a little bit more clarification. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I would like to see if we could get it read, and keep in mind reading it is not the same thing as voting on it. Let's make sure we go through what the words are. I'm sure you guys have read it already, but just in case.
Ordinance 2434, an ordinance establishing a designated outdoor refreshment area, DORA, In the city of Portage, Porter County, Indiana, it is hereby ordained and established by the Common Council of the city of Portage, Indiana as follows. Whereas under Code 71331, DORA statute, allows a municipality to create by ordinance a designated outdoor refreshment area, DORA, in which designated permittees, for example, restaurants, businesses that sell alcohol for on-premises consumption and are approved by the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission, allow persons who are at least 21 years of age to leave their premises to open containers of alcohol beverages and consume those beverages within the boundaries of DORA. Whereas the creation of DORAs can facilitate economic development and benefit the municipality by creating an inviting atmosphere for visitors to patronize restaurants and other businesses within the DORA, whether during regular business hours or as part of a festival or special event. Now, therefore, it is hereby ordained and established by the following Common Council of the City of Portage, Indiana, as follows. A new ordinance establishing a designated an outdoor refreshment area, DORA, as presented by Austin Bonta, Mayor, to the Common Council of the City of Portage, Porter County, Indiana. Let this be stated that it's been read in its entirety.
Actually, do you mind if we pass it on to maybe Victoria to read the next part, just so we're reading through what's actually been listed here? Oh, no, I just wonder if we could maybe, yeah, unless you want to keep going. I just don't want to force it on you. We go down to that. Let's just make sure we got what's listed there, and then I can answer Ferdinand's question, because I'm actually really excited to answer it. There's a couple of answers, some cool, some kind of whatever, but
Sure. So,
It's great.
a new ordinance establishing designating an outdoor refreshment area, DORA, as presented by Austin Bonham, Mayor, to the Common Council of the City of Portage, Porter County, Indiana. Section 1, creation of designated outdoor refreshment area, boundary map and zoning. The Portage DORA is hereby created within the boundaries shown on the map attached hereto as Exhibit A, boundary map, as legally described in Exhibit B, DORA legal description, and consistent with zoning classifications contained therein. Section 2, locations of designated permittees and proposed vendors. The designated permittees and vendors, as those terms are defined by the Indiana Code 7.1-3-31-2 and 7.1-3-31-5 respectively, are as follows as listed on the boundary map Exhibit A. Those addresses being 2596 Portage Mall Stone Quarry Lounge, 2522 Portage Mall On the Rocks, 2542 Portage Mall Social Goat Incorporated. Section 3, signage provided by City of Portage. The DORA shall be designated by signs that shall be posted as the designated areas placed on the boundary map. Exhibit B, no less than 17 signs will be placed throughout the designated refreshment area. Exhibit C. Section 4, designated permittee signs. Each designated permittee and vendor shall post at each entrance and exit of their respective premises a sign provided by the City of Portage, which shall indicate whether an individual may enter with an open container. Section 5, dates and hours of operation. The DORA shall operate only during the following dates and times: Sunday through Thursday from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. local time, Friday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 1 a.m. local time. Section 6, conflicting ordinances. Any ordinance or provision of any ordinance of the City of Portage in conflict with the provisions of this ordinance is hereby repealed. Section 7, severability. The invalidity of any section, clause, sentence, or provision of this ordinance shall not affect the validity of any other part of this ordinance which can be given effect without such invalid part or parts. Section 8, effective date. This ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage and adoption by the Common Council and approval by the Mayor of the City of Portage, Indiana. Let the record reflect the ordinance has been read in its entirety.
I wanted to make sure we got in what's listed there, because it's important to note that there's also dates and times, which can be set as conditions. When it comes to those conditions, so to use Ferdinand's example with glasses, you can do a lot of things from a flexible standpoint. So there are some Indiana municipalities where they set the DORA where, and there's a couple ways to look at it, you could set a restriction that you can't use glass cups. Some communities actually have I don't know exactly if this would be from parks or where we'd want to get it, but some communities actually only permit it if they're plastic cups and designated as Dora cups. So if you guys wanted, you guys could do something like saying, we're okay with having the Dora, but it's got to be in a cup that maybe you're planning on leaving and taking out. So rather than leaving with the Stone Quarry, I love how we're like advertising so many of these bars, tonight, but maybe that's the only reason we did this, I don't know. Maybe you're walking over to the Social Goat, you can't do that with a glass, but you can do it with the participating Dora cup. I think what I'm wondering is, especially with this being a first reading, I would see this as one of two ways. We have time between now and the next council meeting to see if you guys want to think about or talk about it and see if there's some amendments, other tweaks you want to add. Because the concept, I think I'm very for it. I kind of laugh every time my name is read in it because I'm like, wow, this is going to have my name on it either way. There are some tweaks that we could give you guys information on as far as if you wanted to make something stricter, some things narrower, using the plastic cups like only example, sort of thing. I think that the other spot could be is that you might want to adjust days, times. Well, I actually think that the way it is right now is rather limited, and that's probably, for the best, and that's what you put on the signs. I'm never always necessarily a huge fan of making like special committees on things because I think that we're a small enough group that questions and things could do. I guess what I would wonder is, though, if you guys wanted to create a committee to just kind of look at all the possibilities, you certainly can as a council, so that we're ready for maybe some recommendations at the December meeting. Or if you rather, it could be something where, you guys communicate with each other, communicate with me in the park, and we could end up at the next council meeting maybe with some amendments to satisfy some of these other questions we have. It was very long-winded to say a very simple thing.
I have a question. What is to stop somebody from bringing a six-pack in their car and then just taking one and walking into the bar and hanging out there and then going back to their car and getting another part and going to these different businesses without actually investing into them?
That would be, someone could attempt to do that now at any business, and so just like any time, that would fall under, that business. But that might speak to the question of kind of brought up, do you guys want to add, like some communities do, like a special type cup? Of course, someone could also just fill the cup and walk around, but to be fair, you can do that anyway. Because if you bought something in a special cup, let's say at Social Goat, and then you walked over to Stone Quarry or you walked over to On the Rocks, from those bars' perspectives, they might say, well, you didn't buy that here either. That's why I can't stress that a DORA is a legal mechanism to allow for something. We can't force a bar to accept it. A bar like, I don't want to say who, because I don't think that there's any bar that's expressed opposition. In fact, most of the bar owners I've been able to talk to are pretty excited about this. But that said, we can't stop a business from saying, hey, we don't want to participate in this. We don't want anybody coming into our establishment with something that they bought elsewhere. But that would be up to the bar owner,
My concern is that this possibly could encourage or create the possibility of more people roaming around Founders Square on a Friday night or Saturday night during movie night when all the children are there, increase the possibility of more people who've had too much to drink around all the children. That concerns me.
I understand the concern. I think the thing to consider, and it's not a debate by any means, but that could also already happen. But I think the question of what's encouraging versus what also creates a space for people to go. I think also in the time between this first reading and the next council meeting, it might be worthwhile to check out some Doras. Like I say, Griffith is a short drive away, and Bob, you don't have to drink. I won't even drink there with you. We'll get some cola and we'll just see what they, and just see what they. I knew I'd get Cooper to laugh with that one. We'll get some Coca-Cola. We'll go from one to the other, and we'll see, how they're doing on a Saturday night and how that relays into a park. I'm sure there's some other examples, maybe recently passed. I think it'd be a good way to really study that,
Because you know how you go to a Sox game or a Blackhawks game, and you may end up sitting with your family next to someone who's had too much to drink, and it can get quite embarrassing, and you end up leaving with your children because you've just had enough.
And I think the good news there is that if that were to first off, and I do mean this so sincerely, I love that we're talking about our downtown and Founders Square as such a place where it could be with lots of people and things like that. The second part, I would say, that is a little different, and I don't know SOX policy, but someone doing that, that would be disorderly conduct. Our police, who are doing security, especially in an event like Market on the Square, they could intervene with that, either legally in a bad enough situation, or it could just be a matter of, hey, you need to go over here, let's get you this way. I think you guys are bringing up great questions for what is something, but I also can't stress, this is something that does work very well in other communities. I think the question is, can this work well in ours? And is there a way to find that right piece? And again, some it's more event-based. There are some communities that say doors are allowed when we have a particular festival going on. Some are allowed based on a certain time, like a Saturday night. I think all of that really can be explored, but I do think that with the way our downtown is going, we want to make sure that we're taking advantage of a mechanism if it can make our downtown more productive and enjoyable for people.
How is the boundary map determined?
So-
Who decided that?
Well, it's not a matter of deciding, it's a matter of what's been proposed. So this proposal came from John Harrison in the parks, along with the endorsement of Kelly. That was a map that was drawn, not saying anything with John, they drew the widest map possible to capture the area that is our downtown. It could be amended, by the council. And as noted, you can also have 2 DORAs, you can have technically up to 7. But I think what they were thinking about is the very real situation going on that we are growing our downtown. We don't intend for there to be a wide gap between Founders Square and what's currently the Portage Mall, really the west side of the mall, in the future. And so they drew, I think, the widest range that was safe from a traffic standpoint. One thing that initially got looked at was the idea of going a little south of Central, but we all kind of thought that's probably a really bad idea, having people actually crossing a major road no matter what they're bringing with them. This is designed in the short term for Founders Square, especially when we've got events going on related to the beer garden, and then of course our Portage Mall, which we basically have a bar, row with some other businesses along the way.
I have been to an area with this, and it was actually very nice because there was kids out there playing, the beanbag games or whatever as family, with the dogs and their pets and so forth, and it was actually very entertaining. We had a good time.
We have the benefit of the fact that we are not the first city to try this. I can't imagine being the first city to try this. But to be fair, a lot of the cities that tried it first are actually cities where they were doing this already and didn't realize that they were breaking laws. So that I know from going to some of the mayor's roundtable meetings for Northern Indiana. So yeah, I think that now that it's been read as a first reading, I think it's totally okay to not suspend the rules. I think that we've got some time to take a look and see what's working and see if there's adjustments you guys want to make.
I would feel more comfortable seeing how we can amend it to where it's a bit more comfortable for some of the council members here, whether we're
absolutely.
amending certain sections or changing boundaries or something to that effect.
I'm a big believer in setting it up in a way that the council's comfortable with, and then we see, I don't want to just say see how it goes. I mean, we go in with intentionality, but we can basically make it smoother if we see the benefit to improve it afterwards. So yeah, I think that we've got between now until December 3rd, and I mean, you guys can push something back as long as you like, but I'm really confident with this team that we can figure out where we want to start.
I guess while this might be a minority of people, my concern would be that there are people who enjoy attending the market on the square, but who have an alcohol abuse problem, and they stay away from the beer garden. So my concern would be, now that we have people walking around the market on the square, that might deter people who would like to spend time there from being there because they can't be around it. Like I said, I know that would be a minority of people, but that's just a
Not
thought
be
that
as
comes
big
up
of
in my
a
head.
minority as you think. I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but Jake, would you mind coming up? I'm just wondering, speaking on the PRA, what are your thoughts hearing us go through all this?
Good for business for us, you know what I mean? Because it could really separate the men from the boys, you know what I'm saying?
It also allows you to find a guy walking down, the
Recruit
square and be like,
customers.
dude, you might need to talk to
No,
us. I'm just
sitting here,
curious.
this stuff would never bother me, and I don't think it would bother our organization at all, man. Like, what people do is what they do, what we do is what we do, you know what I mean? We have our part, and we're always available no matter what yet. I don't care if people drink. It sounds like Mayor Bonta's gonna have a big party, though, with
There's an element, but
talk
I think
about
that,
drinks and.
but I do mean it so sincerely. I call you up because I know that, you and I, we've had a great number of discussions about everything from Nativity Fest to the market, even with the current beer garden,
Yeah.
and how to handle issues, with that, know. We've talked about issues with how there's people that want to go to a comedy show, but that does involve going into a bar in a lot of cases in town, and how we can work with the PRA on that, so.
Yeah, I know for me, like, we do a lot of our programming, and I was gonna come up actually during public comment and like talk about that. Like, we do a lot of our stuff because some people don't have that choice where they can go. Some people are on different levels of where they're at. Like me, I feel I can go there comfortably, walk around, talk to my friends, watch the game and stuff, but I'm on a different kind of spiritual plane than like what we're aiming for is like stuff for like that new person, you know what I mean? So like, even if the city of Portage decides to do that stuff, like, as long as we're offering what we're offering and stuff, like, those people always have that choice. And then from there, it's really on them, and, so, yeah, I like this stuff. I think it's.
Thank you, Jake.
I
Do you
see
want
all
to
the
come to
development stuff,
Griffith
and I
with me
like
and
it.
Bob, Jake?
Yeah, I'd love
We'll
to.
check
Yeah,
that.
get some Coke? Cola, Coca-Cola.
Glad
I couldn't
Candiano
believe
got
you
back to
said
see
that.
this too.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it's like when I see all the development stuff, like none of that ever bothers me. I think it's like, it's exciting, you know what I mean? I've always wanted there to be more in the city. And like sometimes, unfortunately, that's just what it has to take. You offer a place to drink, people will go to it, and that's fine. And smart.
Well, thanks, man. I think unless there's other questions, I think we're good to say that this has had its first reading. I'm so excited to work with you guys on this because, again, I just love this kind of dynamic stuff, so thank you. All right. We have ordinance 2435, 2025 salary ordinance. So this one has a very special request, from me. This has to do with the fact that it was brought to my attention by our clerk treasurer, who's been doing a great job working with the State Board of Accounts, that we need to amend the salary ordinance at least once a year. That's part of the thing that Indiana has you do. And with that in mind, I know that during the budget committee and then during the budget adoption meetings, we talked about different matters when it comes to salaries and what's already budgeted for, what we think is going to come when other amounts, come in. And knowing that we need to make a plan to adopt a new salary ordinance, my recommendation is, and Liz and I both, we went through kind of like what we'd like to see or what we would hope to be able to accomplish. That said, with this being a first reading and needing normally to go to a second reading, my recommendation to the council would be to have this read, but I'd actually request, and I don't know how long it's been since this happened, my request is that this proposal be reviewed by the Ways and Means Committee, which would be Gina Penny, I believe Gina's the chair, and Melissa. It would give the opportunity for us to not necessarily be here for a couple hours tonight going through each, single spot and having to weigh, this versus that. I think that the committee structure offered by Ways and Means allows for a good orderly meeting between now and December 3rd. The only thing I would recommend is ideally for Ways and Means to hold that meeting with myself, with the department heads, really, anybody relevant to it. My request would be that the Ways and Means Committee do what they can to vote on a formal recommendation to the council. So you guys might say, we can do this, we can do that, but it also might be, we can do this, but we recommend the council also takes this action to bring in revenue to cover this. Or they might say don't. I'm not trying to tell you guys what to do, but I think the most appropriate thing when you're dealing with something like this is to have it reviewed by the proper standing committee. Anyway, that's my recommendation, but maybe we'll start by having Victoria, would you mind reading it? Or maybe you already read a lot, right? Let's see.
No, there's a back page on it, the ordinance itself.
You have a printed version of that? Maybe just, we'll hand it down. Go ahead.
Salary ordinance, budget year 2025, ordinance 24-35. An ordinance establishing the amount of salaries and compensation to be paid to all appointed employees and officers of the City of Portage, Porter County, Indiana for the year 2025. Be it and hereby is ordained by the Common Council of the City of Portage, Indiana as follows. Salary schedule as presented by Austin Bonta, Mayor, to the Common Council of the City of Portage, Porter County, Indiana. Section 1, that from the first pay date in January of 2025 through the last pay date in December of 2025, this pay schedule for the employees and officers of the City of Portage, Porter County, Indiana, be fixed as follows. Let the record reflect the ordinance has been read in its entirety, including the schedules.
Thank you. Thanks. I'll set it right here. Do you need it back, Liz?
Yeah, that constitutes the first reading.
Yeah, like I say, there's no action that needs to be taken right now, but like I say, my recommendation or my request might be for a committee meeting for the standing committee known as Ways and Means to review this proposal and then make a recommendation on what to do with it to the whole council by our December meeting. I'm not sure when the last time we had a Ways and Means committee meeting was in the history of Portage.
I know I was on it for a number of years, and I think we met maybe 4 or 5 times in about 8 years. About once every, well, we were required to meet at least once a year, but, so.
I've met one.
I wasn't sure.
Once in 4 years, Gina? Once in 4 years?
The chairman, but
This being my first rodeo on this particular matter, not on updating the salary ordinance, but in a matter like this, and I don't know if I'm leaning on Ed for this, is it appropriate to have that meeting scheduled here, like during this meeting, or is it something that Gina would be able to set up as the chair if, once she talks to Penny and Melissa?
I think, I think it could be established by the 3 of them with some notice that the meeting's being conducted 48 hours in advance. Okay.
I have a question. These highlighted salaries, I don't see a comparison. Like, this is the proposed 2025 salary, is that correct? Like, so what's the current salary? Like,
You had the current salary in the last council meeting,
okay.
where the special one on the, I think, the 29th. So that's the current salary, and this is the proposed for 2025.
All right, and then we have F, ordinance 24-36, 2025, tax anticipation warrant. Liz, do you mind going into this one?
It's my pleasure. So every year, the city has taken out a tax warrant to make what, basically this is, it's a loan so that we can make it from January 1st to July, or June 30th, so we can get our tax draw. It's a loan to help us meet our tax draw. What the ordinance says itself is that we can borrow up to 80% of our tax levy, which is 18 million, I think it's 18.6 million, but we never go to the max. We always, this year, or for 2024, the tax anticipation warrant was for 5 million. We're anticipating that we're going to have to borrow about 7 million. The bond bank will let us know how much we're actually going to need, or how much they will let us borrow, and it's based on our need or what they anticipate we're going to need to make our tax draw in June. So it's based on that. It's something that's not new. Every year I was on the council for 24 years, we took out a tax warrant. Some years it's 2 million, one year it was 15 million, depending on what your circumstances are for the year prior and how much you're going to carry over for next year.
I'm a big believer that we want to be moving in the direction of getting less and less, and ideally getting to a point where that's not necessary, and I know that's been a goal for past mayors. Those of you who were at the budget committee meeting, and in particular, even when it came into just the budget matters in particular, there were challenges this year, that had to be addressed based on the way the budget was set up, based on just costs that came in. That said, it's a direction we want to move towards being able to do less and less with these. And I can elaborate a bit more on what we're anticipating based on the budget that you guys helped us pass for 2025. I'm prepared to do that at the next meeting, when it comes to that, because I believe this is just the first reading. Is that right, Liz?
It could be the first meeting unless you want to suspend the rules. We have to have it passed by December 15th in order to get this tax warrant, so.
Again, I'm careful on this because, I mean, you guys are the council, you're the fiscal body. I know that if you're looking for a bit more detail about, what's the word I'm looking for, just the transparency of it, of A, what is it that this is covering, and then B, what is it that we plan to do? I'm prepared to give the presentation for that for you guys at our next meeting, or an earlier one if you'd prefer, as long as financially we'd be okay if we were to pass it by the 3rd.
Yes, we can pass it by the 3rd.
I would
You have any
recommend
que-
that we. Echoes. So I would recommend that we wait until we get to December 3rd.
We do need to read it, though. Ferdinand, would you be comfortable reading it?
Excuse me, ordinance 24-36, an ordinance authorizing the city of Portage, Indiana to make temporary loans to meet current running expenses for the use of the general fund and park fund of the issuer in anticipation of and not in excess of current taxes levied in the year 2024 and collectible in the year 2025, authorizing the issuance of temporary loan tax anticipation warrants to evidence such loans and the sale of such warrants to the Indiana Bond Bank, and appropriating and pledging the taxes to be received in such funds to the punctual payment of such warrants, including the interest thereon. Let the record show that the ordinance has been read in its entirety.
Thank you.
That constitutes the first reading.
Reports from standing committees. I'll get to city officials a bit.
No, we have another bond, we have a,
Oh, where are we at? 37? Am I missing something? Hold on. Oh.
Non-reverting.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I have the old copy of it. No problem. Let's see. Melissa, would you mind reading that one? And then we'll get into what's going on there.
Ordinance 24-37, an ordinance establishing special non-reverting capital and operating funds for the Portage Parks and Recreation Board. It is hereby ordained and established by the Common Council of the City of Portage as follows. Whereas Indiana statutory law under I.C. 36-10-3-11, I.C. 36-10-3-18, I.C. 36-10-3-20, and IC 36-10-3-22B permits the establishment of special non-reverting capital and operating funds to be utilized for purposes of park and recreation operations, and the Portage Parks and Recreation Board desire to make use of this law for funding operations. And whereas the board has, by resolution, requested the creation of 2 special non-reverting funds, first for programs, activities, and other specific park purposes, and second for the purposes of acquiring land and making specific capital improvements. Let the record show it has been read in its entirety.
So some time ago, a previous city council eliminated the park's non-reverting fund. The park, and in particular, the park board was told that that would come back, and it took a while, but with this new team came in, I worked with Liz, I worked with the park, and my hope is to work with you guys, the council, to bring it back. Some of us are familiar with the park non-reverting fund already. I was wondering if Ed, just to play it safe, maybe you could give a bit of a more legal, less French Quarter, Griffith, Coca-Cola example of really the legal purpose of a park non-reverting fund.
The origin of the ordinance came out of discussions in the budget process during the course of the second half of '24. And what was apparent was there were revenue that was coming through to the city and being passed through to the general fund and not retained by the park department. And in specifics, there's reference to rental fees program and registration fees, concession sales, applicable sales taxes, and private donations, that it appeared from a budgetary standpoint, it was challenging for the park department to try to keep a balanced budget with those monies flowing through. So my understanding of the purpose of this ordinance was to allow the park department to retain some of these revenues that will be used in the '25 budget year instead of having it pass through strictly to the general treasury. It's a bookkeeping effort. Sales tax liabilities were being incurred, and again, it appeared from the standpoint of that department that revenue should be retained by the department rather than turned over to the general fund.
So to give an anecdote that was kind of amazing to me, the very first time I read through, the city's, budgets, the appropriation reports, there was a point where I looked at the category that was park refunds. So let's say that you booked a haul at the park and you ended up not being able to do the event, and so you were within the window where you could get a refund. Our line item for park refunds was over $20,000 in the negative. And it was, even this year.
Okay.
Or yeah, even,
But I know
or the
during
previous, yeah.
COVID, it got hit
Oh, it was,
hard.
but so simply put, of course, during COVID, you had people canceling events very understandably. But the thing that I was confused about is how do you go negative in refunds? I don't have any cash with me. If you could pretend that this is a dollar, a Monopoly dollar, let's say. I should have brought a Monopoly dollar. That would have been fun, or a Portageopoly. If I give you $1, okay, you now made $1, right? Now, if I need a refund, I'll take it back just for the example. Don't worry, you can have it later. You're not negative $1. You went from 1 to 0. How is it that we had a negative? Well, because we didn't have a park non-reverting fund, you had to budget money for park refunds to be given out from that line item. But if the amount of refunds exceeded what was in that line item on the bookkeeping, we ended up negative $20,000 in refunds, and technically that's got to be reappropriated. Sales tax went the same way. When somebody buys something from the park, which actually makes the city money, they pay a sales tax, but in our books, that was coming up as a negative every time they did a sales tax. So what the park non-reverting fund does as a start is it allows a percentage of the money that the parks make off of rentals, off of sales of, oh darn it, the beer garden as an example again. A percentage of that money goes into the park non-reverting fund so that it comes out of that fund to pay those kinds of expenses, such as a refund should they happen, a sales tax, things like that. And so we're no longer, as Ed put it, in the red for those categories. Now over time, once the non-reverting fund is reestablished, you could potentially also add what sorts of things that you guys are okay with them using it for. And over time, as the park makes money, you might even change the percentage, or a future council might change the percentage of how much money goes into that fund. And this is actually a process of how other park systems become self-sufficient. It's possible that you can have a park system that entirely is paying for itself, and then that frees up the general fund and not have to cover the parks. We're not there yet. Just establishing this with the parameters set doesn't get us there yet, but it does eliminate what I consider, at least personally, to be false negatives in our budget. This should also help us to not be having what looks, to put it really simply, we're all going to eventually run for re-election. It'd be nice if our opponents don't say, look at how these negatives in that park system, if we can help it, But also it's just better bookkeeping, and it's also better financial accountability for the parks.
And what it will do is reduce the amount of money the city's going to have to give to the parks, and that's what we're hoping for. And we got a new park director who's doing a great job over there.
She is
and
determined
very
for that
accountable.
self-sufficiency spot,
yes, she's very accountable, and she is very dedicated to trying to make the parks self-sufficient.
The Park Department also passed a resolution in support of this ordinance, so it's been teed up for your consideration.
Thank you.
If there's no motion, it can pass to the next meeting. That's up to you guys, I believe.
Make a motion to suspend the rules.
A second.
We have a motion to suspend and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 I'll make a motion to approve.
And I will second.
A motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We'll move on from our reports from standing committees. So next month, we'll have a report from the Ways and Means Committee. Do we have anything from the Ordinance Committee?
This evening, we met briefly and had our regularly scheduled ordinance committee meeting where we discussed the changes to the ambulance service ordinance, including the changes to the language, which has been voted on and approved by the council tonight. Nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. From our city officials, Chief Crail, I know you came up with a number of things. Was there anything you wanted to say? No pressure, I mean, just.
I will keep it quick. I don't, I'll just real quick go over our call volume. We had 525 calls, the exact same as last month. Everything else is pretty much comparable. Everybody has received my report, and again, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I really do just want to say publicly that I would like to ask for all of you to keep the fire department in your thoughts and prayers. One of our longtime firefighters is currently battling cancer. He's been a fireman with the city of Portage for 27 years, and he's 5 months away from retirement. He was just diagnosed with, it's in 3 areas, and so he's got a battle ahead of him, and he's set to retire. So just keep the fire department and this firefighter in your thoughts and prayers. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Chief Candiano, if you'd like to say something, I mean, if you'd like to not, I mean, we can just let, Chief Crail have the day, it's up to you.
That's not going to happen.
I was amazed. I was shaking hands with at least 15 firefighters this afternoon. I'm like, yeah, good to see you, good to see you, good to see you. And then I noticed one of them was Chief Candiano, and I was like, wait a second. It's like a Where's Waldo moment.
I actually don't have much. Actually, I didn't even bring anything. We had a little bit of a big call going on as I was trying to get our officer sworn in, so that ended up being resolved well. So I guess all I'll say is, this time of year, very happy time for a lot of people. We get into the joy of the holidays, also a very hard time for a lot of people. Our mental health calls and people in distress right now are off the charts between us and the fire department. Usually those are joint calls for us. They're skyrocketing. So just say, to those that are out there watching, keep in contact with your loved ones and friends, and if they're hurting or struggling, make sure you reach out and try to get them some help, because although, like I said, it is a very happy time of year, it's also a busy time for mental health. So we've been pretty busy lately, so the only other thing I'll leave you with is just another thank you for the budget that went through at the last meeting. It takes all those tools for us to do our job. We need the funding to do the different things and have the training. At our call tonight, officers were able to talk this individual out of the house before anything else escalated. And, I think a lot of that has to do with experience and training, and that's made part by some of the funding and different things that we're able to do because you guys get us the tools we need. So that's really all I got. So I'll send you a report with the call notes or the call volume and stuff later this week. But
Thank you so much, Chief. Any petitions, remonstrances, or public input?
Yeah, go right ahead. Michael Cooper, 5455 Clem Road. The Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission is currently taking comments on a proposed NIPSCO electric rate increase. They have submitted a request to our regulators in Indiana to raise our electric rates here in northern Indiana with the NIPSCO. And they will be holding a public hearing Tuesday evening, that's a Tuesday evening before Thanksgiving at Ivy Tech in Valpo. That will be the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission as they consider this proposal from NIPSCO. What this proposed electric hike means for our city budget is that your street lights are going to experience a 30.2% increase in their electric bills, traffic lights 18.2%, municipal pumps 18.2%, buildings are going to increase by 25%. That's what it means for the city of Portage. What it means for our residents is that it will be a $45 a month increase in their electric bills, in their pocketbooks. NIPSCO is asking for an increase to increase their profit margin by $51.9 million in annual revenue, and that is coming in part from the residents of Portage. It is also be coming out of the budget that you just passed 2 weeks ago. I'm asking our elected officials to stand with the residents of Portage against this unprecedented rate increase by adopting a resolution tonight opposing the proposed NIPSCO rate increase. A resolution that would go to the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission on behalf of the taxpayers of Portage, who will have not only be faced with their increased electric bills in their homes, but a decrease in city services as our city struggles to pay for this rate increase as well. Those rate increases up to 30% will really blow your electric service budget line items out of the water, as you will have some increased operating expenses for street lights, traffic lights, sewer pumps, police station, fire stations, utility services, park facilities, and even this wonderful city hall. This also has implications on economic development. U.S. Steel wrote a short statement in their petition to intervene in this matter to the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission, saying, quote, NIPSCO rates, including its cost allocations and rate design, will have a substantial impact on U.S. Steel. Today, even Walmart filed a petition to intervene. Of course, Walmart and U.S. Steel, if U.S. Steel wants a place at the table, it gets one. Some of the expenses experience requests from our region's smaller industries. One example, the RV group members and their Indiana, out in Elkhart, Indiana, wrote the cost of electric utility service is a significant component in the cost of operations for each of the group members' operations. NIPSCO requests, in its case, present not only very significant rate increases for the group's members and their Indiana-based operations, but also the potential modifications of the terms and conditions under which each receives electric service from NIPSCO could materially and negatively impact members' ongoing operations. This rate increase will have the same effect on new and established businesses right here in Portage, materially and negatively impacting their operations. You can find out more information about how this will affect the residents at the Citizens Action Coalition of Indiana website. They have been taking the lead on this, citact.org. I asked the council to take the proactive step for Portage and pass a resolution tonight. I've provided a draft against the proposed rate increase. The draft, as you consider the impacts to the city budget and to the city of Portage, to the residents of Portage. I also invite this council to ask the citizens of Portage to attend the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission field public hearing on this increase. That hearing will be held at 6 p.m. on November 26th. That is the Tuesday before Thanksgiving at the Ivy Tech Community College Valparaiso campus auditorium on Tech Drive in Valparaiso, Indiana. And I've provided did everybody get a copy?
Yeah, do you mind if I ask you a couple questions real quick? Cool, because I can't stress, I certainly am not in favor of this direction going. Tough, so I don't mean to come off in disagreement at all. I'll be there maybe not literally with you, I don't know if we're going to carpool together, but I'll be there at the public hearing, and I'll be giving my opinion on this, like as a taxpayer, resident, ratepayer, all that. Did you share this with a council person already before bringing it up here?
Yes, I'm in conversation, I emailed to Colin and to Ferdinand.
Okay. Normally, what we would want to do, this is a procedural thing. I can't tell the council what to do, but all said and done, we have certain mechanisms to get a resolution or an ordinance proposed, usually either through a department or through one of the standing committees. Or, simply put, if you're a council person with an idea, best thing to do is to talk to Ed, talk to Liz, or talk to the council president. I'm glad you at least brought it up, with somebody. From a procedural standpoint, we want to be very careful, and I don't mean this about you, but just anybody walking up with anything and saying, here's a resolution, pass it. These have to be written and reviewed by the city attorney before passed. Even a non-binding resolution, we want to make sure that there's nothing, even accidentally, factually inaccurate. And I'm not claiming anything is. I'm just saying, we want to have that reviewed by an attorney before it's passed by the council.
That is an opinion, yes. I mean, I believe any council person could make a motion to adopt this evening.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they can't. I would just think that in general, we want to make sure that all the information is fact-checked and that it reflects all the points that the council members want to hit. I, generally speaking, recommend any resident seeking something from the city council, if you're asking for action on a particular meeting, to, again, it's an opinion, but it's a really important thing that we need to take seriously, that what we say has truth to it, that we don't have any accidental issues with it, and that it's written in a way that is legally conducive. So what I always recommend, and I'm saying this to the council people, is if you've got an idea for a resolution or an ordinance, you want to run it by Ed, run it through the council president, make sure it's following the rules established by our ordinances with how the council runs. This is also for residents. I say it because I don't know offhand the numbers. So, this says here, for example, a $45 increase on everybody's bill. Is that a fact that everyone's bill will be exactly $45?
Yeah, that's the what the Citizens Action Committee. Now, the rate increase does have different. They are doing a few different things with separating out apartments from homes. So where apartments are going to be paying a little bit lower rates, because currently right now apartments are paying the same as kind of a home, but they have discovered that the usage in apartments is a lot less. Is less than kind of a standalone home. So there is some differentiation that is going to be happening in their proposed rate increases based upon the unit, the type of unit.
And I have a question, if I may, Mayor.
Go ahead.
So if Mr. Cooper has any knowledge of this, how does this affect any of the residents who are already on a price-fixed plan with their NIPSCO? If they're already fixed for a certain rate, how does this then impact them?
NIPSCO, it's across the board. It's a rate. It's there is a rate increase. Now, NIPSCO, there is an entire section, and do invite you to read it. It's about 100 some pages long, of their different policies and proposals for low-income residents.
But if I may interject that, I'm speaking about the priced-fixed rate that a resident can get for the year, that it locks that rate in, regardless if the rate goes up or down. A resident has that option of price fixing their interest rate for the entire year.
That is covered under, they have the rate, the standard rate, but they also have additional documentation with the various, and they have more than one type of low-income programs, and they're talking about increasing some of that and doing away with.
Well, I'm not talking about the low income. This is for a resident who chooses to do a price-fixed rate for their NIPSCO. It'll lock it in for the entire year, regardless if the rate goes up. So how would this impact or change that if a resident already locks their rate in for the year?
The rate case only covers the actual cost per the type of unit, whether it be apartment, a house, this building, a city building, a street light. They also have additional programs which they can provide those types of options for people who qualify, but their base rate is going to be the same, whether or not, how they're going to adjust, or if they're going to adjust people who are currently in those rate class, in those types of rate class, low income agreements, I do not know.
Right, but I'm not talking about low-income agreements. This is for any resident who chooses to lock in their,
You mean a budget plan?
it's part of your budget
Oh, your
plan.
budget plan. Yeah, no, your budget plan would go up. That's your rate. Your rate, they reassess your budget every 6 months.
Yeah, it would be
Can I
locked in for the
reiterate?
year.
Can I reiterate
Go ahead,
something? Maybe you guys, I don't know if you guys would like to, the meeting's on November 26th, so if maybe Ed can draft an ordinance, and in the future, anybody, I'm going to put this out there for the public in the future, if anybody wants to get on the agenda, they do have to notify, especially for a resolution, they have to notify the clerk treasurer's office, plus the mayor and the council president, and we will get it to the city attorney, because we have a certain form that we use, a standard form for our resolutions and our ordinances, that we have developed, or our city attorney has developed, and this doesn't conform with our form. There's no place for the signatures for the mayor, clerk treasurer, or even the city council if they all wanted to sign this resolution. So it would have to be rewritten, and if you
And that's what
want
I
it to
mean
be
by
rewritten,
making
then
sure
you
that
want.
it's covered in
I mean,
such a way that
right.
it can go through legal review. Keep in mind, like, we spent what felt like half an hour going over Adora, and we're taking a trip to Griffith and all that to make sure we have all of our points fine-tuned. I think that this is great in spirit. I would want to make sure that this is fine-tuned. If the council's going to take a unified or relatively unified action, I certainly hate for it to pass like 6-1 or something. It would be like, but all said and done. You said that the 26th is the public hearing. Do you know offhand? I'll look it up if you don't. When is the decision scheduled to be made?
They start hearings in 2025, I think in February. The Senator Pohl and Representative Pat Boy requested that they have additional public hearings throughout Northwest Indiana. So far, the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission has not granted their request for a public hearing outside of really in Valpo, on the edge of the farmland, requesting a public hearing in Michigan City or even Gary. So this is, so far as we know, as far as that has been scheduled, this is the only public comment
Sure,
hearing.
but it should be noted that we, as the city of Portage, and certainly the city of council, has the ability to pass a resolution and send it to the appropriate people. It doesn't necessarily have to be read at a public comment, which is for residents, ratepayers to come, including us. Again,
No,
I
but
plan on being there.
There's a time frame for, I don't know when the cutoff date for public
We
comment
can
is.
send a
Yeah.
notice to NIPSCO at any time. I mean, simply put, they will receive it, and if they ignore it, that says something about them on themselves.
You can send it to the Regulatory Commission, that's who we'd send the resolution to, so.
It would be noted that the city of Portage, if the council's inclined to give a resolution stating a opinion on the city council, I just think it's important that I understand the desire to have it read by somebody at the public hearing itself, but some people might want to go to the public hearing, make sure they hear everything being said as part of formulating their opinion here. I can't stress how much I agree with the spirit of this. I like the energy and the determination to make sure that everybody's weighing in. I want to make sure that this is all correctly stated, legally prepared. I can't speak to what the council's going to do, but I certainly appreciate you coming in with this.
I appreciate you taking the time and letting us know, because I was not aware of it myself. But I cannot make the meeting, unfortunately. I'm doubling that night, so you have to keep us posted.
Didn't know you were such a big fan of U.S. Steel. Didn't know you were such a big fan of U.S. Steel. I don't know, I had a feeling that you just weren't that, Yeah, I was going to say, would somebody be inclined to make a recommendation on this?
I'd make a recommendation that the proposed resolution be sent to the city attorney for any potential changes.
In a second.
Do we need an actual vote for them to send it to? I mean, I'm just going to show it to you after the meeting, but if they'd like to do something, I want to make sure the council can participate.
I don't think that formality is required, but of course, I'm going to be looking at the body that's elected to help formulate the correct words and phrases in this resolution. So I'll do my best, but I will want to circulate it for comments. Okay.
I don't think we're going to find any residents coming in here mad at you guys for you doing something like this. If you choose to do it, I don't think that there's anybody who really wants to pay NIPSCO more money. That said, I just think that we want to make sure that it's as legally correct and worded well and is as practically feasible as possible. Are there other comments, public input?
I swear this is the last time I'm coming up here today. So I just wanted to come up here and give some gratitude again. So last November, we picked up that first check from the opioid settlement. Today, I was able to work with Ms. Modesto and the Board of Works to get that second check, so I'm so grateful. And I also wanted to personally thank Gina and Ferdinand from the previous council that were part of that decision, because like it really, really, really is going a very long, long way. Like this is life-changing. And this Saturday, I wanted to invite everybody that I haven't invited already. I think a lot of people in the room I've already asked to come. But this Saturday, 10:30, 6040 Lute Road, Northwest Health will officially be handing over the key and the deed to the new location, the old physical therapy and sleep study area. They're going to donate to the Portage Recovery Association. It's valued at over $700,000. This is like the biggest, coolest thing that this organization's ever had happen to us. I mean, 32 years, and we're finally going to have a place that I feel is, I'm looking 32 more years in the future with this donation. So if anybody would like to come out and be a part of that, I think Mr. Mayor's coming and Chief and a couple other people are coming for sure. But I'd like to invite everybody, if you want to come out and just be part of like a cool photo op and just kind of see what we got planned and what's going on in there and throw some ideas around and see what sticks. Everybody's invited. It's really informal. You know what I mean? It's just the grand opening is going to be in April, where we're going to look to have like a really big party, like super cool. So we got a lot of cool stuff planned, so you'll be seeing me a lot. And one thing that I definitely wanted to ask everybody to look forward to is we're going to start a committee in January to see what we got to do to turn that building into a haunted house next October, because there just isn't one in the city, and I think there should be one.
You mean to make it like a play
Like a
haunted house, not an
walkthrough.
actually haunted house?
Like a haunted walkthrough,
No.
like it's 15,000 square feet, and this is something we've talked about for a long time, and we really want to make community meet recovery with this stuff and just have a safe place for everybody. So like, I'm going to be around looking for ways to do that stuff too. So, but everybody's invited Saturday at
Thank
10:30,
you.
and thanks again for everything. And I'll be around.
Keep doing what
Thank
you're
you
doing.
for all you do.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And it's not that big of a, we're okay. We're okay. Thank you all. You guys are great.